Mount Hermon, a mountain range straddling the modern borders of Lebanon, Syria, and Israel, holds significant prominence not only geographically, but also in ancient religious and mythological texts. While it plays a visible role in regional topography, its deeper symbolic and theological associations derive primarily from the Book of Enoch, a non-canonical Jewish apocalyptic text. In that work, Hermon becomes the focal point of a pivotal transgression, the first direct rebellion by celestial beings against divine command. Mount Hermon is the highest point in the anti-Lebanon mountain range, rising over 2,800 meters above sea level. Its location historically marked the northern boundary of ancient Israel and has been referenced in several ancient Near Eastern sources. The mountain was considered sacred by multiple cultures, including the Canaanites, who associated it with their pantheon of gods. However, its most striking mythological association comes from Jewish apocalyptic literature, Enoch, a text dated to the 3rd or 2nd century BCE. The Book of Enoch, also known as 1 Enoch, introduces a group of angels called the Watchers, whose role was to observe and protect humanity. These beings, however, are said to have descended to earth in defiance of their divine duties. This act marks a significant deviation from the typical angelic obedience expected in monotheistic cosmologies. The central narrative revolves around 200 angels under the leadership of an archangel named Semjaza, who made a collective decision to descend from heaven and interact directly with human beings. Their primary motive, as explicitly stated in the text, was to take human women as wives and beget offspring, an act that was both forbidden and unnatural according to the cosmic laws established by the Creator. Before executing their plan, the Watchers convened and made a solemn pact. They descended specifically to Mount Hermon, where they bound themselves by mutual imprecation, essentially cursing themselves to suffer the same fate if any one of them failed to follow through. The Book of Enoch 6:6 states, "And they were in all 200, who descended in the days of Jared on the summit of Mount Hermon, and they called it Mount Hermon because they had sworn and bound themselves by mutual imprecations upon it." The name Hermon is etymologically linked in this context to the Semitic root hrm, meaning to ban, curse, or devote. Therefore, in the myth, Mount Hermon is so named not merely as a geographic label, but as a memorial of this oath, a cursed pact that marked a foundational breach in the cosmic order. The transgression committed by the Watchers was twofold. These angels were designated as overseers, not participants in human affairs. By engaging in physical union with human women, they acted beyond their appointed role. Later chapters of the Book of Enoch elaborate that the Watchers not only fathered children, but also imparted esoteric knowledge to humanity, such as astrology, weapon making, sorcery, and cosmetics. This forbidden knowledge motif parallels various myths across cultures where divine or semi-divine figures bestow dangerous wisdom to humans. The initial oath and descent marked the moment when the boundary between the divine and mortal worlds was deliberately crossed, and Mount Hermon became the symbol of this transgressive act. The forbidden descent of the Watchers on Mount Hermon, as detailed in the Book of Enoch, did not merely constitute a violation of divine law. It initiated a chain of catastrophic consequences for the earth and its inhabitants. The most immediate and significant of these consequences was the creation of a hybrid race known as the Nephilim, often translated as giants, but whose identity and role extend far beyond physical stature. Following the Watchers' union with human women, a new race of beings was born, the Nephilim, from the Hebrew root NPL, meaning to fall. In 1 Enoch, they are described as beings of immense size, power, and appetite. They are not simply larger humans. Rather, they are a hybrid species, representing the unnatural fusion of divine essence and mortal flesh. This mixture is portrayed as a violation of the natural and moral order of creation. The Book of Enoch describes them as follows: "And they became pregnant, and they bare great giants, who consumed all the acquisitions of men. And when men could no longer sustain them, the giants turned against them and devoured mankind." Enoch 7:2-5. The Nephilim are characterized primarily by their insatiable hunger and overwhelming strength. Their very existence becomes a burden on the world. Initially consuming the food and livestock of humans, they eventually begin to devour human beings themselves. The text depicts a descent into chaos, where these giants wage war, destroy natural resources, and teach humans the use of violence. This devastation is not limited to physical destruction. The Nephilim and their angelic progenitors also introduce forms of forbidden knowledge and corrupt practices that alter the spiritual and moral fabric of human civilization. Among the teachings attributed to the Watchers are Azazel taught men the making of weapons and armor, swords, knives, shields, and women the use of makeup and ornamentation. Semjaza taught enchantments and root cuttings. Other Watchers taught astrology, signs of the earth, sun, and moon, and occult knowledge. These teachings, described in 1 Enoch 8, represent the unauthorized transmission of divine or arcane knowledge, something that parallels similar motifs in global mythology, e.g., the Promethean gift of fire to humans in Greek mythology, or the teaching of the arts by the Apkallu in Mesopotamian tradition. As the Nephilim multiplied and their influence spread, Earth became accused, a term used to describe its corruption in both material and spiritual terms. The Watchers had not only fathered destructive giants, but they had also taught humanity to sin. War, vanity, sorcery, divination, and other transgressive acts proliferated. In 1 Enoch 9, the archangels Michael, Uriel, Raphael, and Gabriel appeal to God, reporting the state of the earth. "Thou seest what Azazel hath done. He hath taught all unrighteousness on earth, and revealed the eternal secrets which were preserved in heaven." This appeal prompts divine intervention. In response to the spreading chaos, God commands action. A twofold punishment is decreed. The Nephilim shall be destroyed. They are to turn on one another in a great civil war. Their end is marked not by divine hands, but by self-destruction, which reflects the internal corruption of their own unnatural creation. The Watchers shall be bound and cast into the abyss. The rebellious angels are to be imprisoned in the depths of the earth until the final judgment. The archangel Raphael is tasked with binding Azazel and casting him into a deep desert pit. Others, including Semjaza, are also bound beneath the earth. Importantly, the narrative draws a clear causal link between the actions of the Watchers and the eventual flood, as described in Genesis and echoed in 1 Enoch and other ancient texts. The flood is not just a cleansing of wicked humanity, but the purging of a corrupt hybrid lineage and the resetting of cosmic order. While the Book of Enoch offers the most detailed account of this myth, similar themes are present in other ancient traditions. Genesis 6:1-4 briefly refers to sons of God mating with daughters of men and producing mighty men of old, echoing the Watchers and Nephilim narrative. Greek mythology recounts the rise of the Titans and Gigantes, born of divine rebellion and often described as giants who battle the gods. Mesopotamian myths contain references to semi-divine kings and sages, such as the Apkallu, some of whom were later deemed corrupt and banished to the abyss. Zoroastrianism also contains myths about fallen spiritual entities introducing chaos to the world. These widespread parallels suggest a shared archetype in ancient mythologies of divine beings crossing boundaries, producing unnatural offspring, and triggering catastrophic consequences. Having examined the descent of the Watchers and the rise and fall of the Nephilim, the myth of Mount Hermon does not conclude with their punishment, Instead, its legacy persists across time, culture, and belief systems. The Hermon Curse, originally rooted in an ancient apocalyptic text, has become a recurring archetype, influencing religious doctrine, mystical traditions, and even modern speculative theories. In mythological and religious symbolism, certain geographic locations are not merely physical landmarks but gateways, boundaries between worlds, planes of existence, or divine realms. Mount Hermon is presented as precisely such a liminal space, the location where heavenly beings descend to earth, break divine law, and create an unnatural legacy. Its significance derives not only from what happened there, but from what the mountain represents. A breach between the celestial and terrestrial, a portal through which divine knowledge, both enlightening and corrupting, enters the human world, a site of irreversible transformation. These qualities have ensured that Hermon's symbolic weight transcends the specific narrative of one Enoch. The Hermon myth shares striking similarities with stories from other ancient traditions, which suggests that the core themes, divine rebellion, hybrid offspring, forbidden knowledge, are part of a wider mythological pattern. The Titans and giants in Greek mythology resemble the Watchers and Nephilim. The Gigantomachy, the battle between the gods and the giants, reflects the divine response to a corrupted world. Prometheus offers another parallel, a divine being who transgresses by giving humans forbidden knowledge, fire leading to punishment. The Apkallu, 7 sages in Sumerian and Akkadian tradition, were demigods or divine hybrids who brought civilization and knowledge to humans. Later, some Apkallu are said to have corrupted humanity and were banished to the deep. The Epic of Gilgamesh features giant-like heroes and divine wrath, echoing Nephilim-like traits. The tale of the fallen Daivas who deceive humanity parallels the idea of angels introducing chaos through false teachings and secret knowledge. The story of Harut and Marut, 2 angels sent to earth who succumb to temptation and teach humans sorcery, mirrors the Watcher's narrative. Though the Quran gives limited details, later Islamic literature expands on this theme. These examples reflect the recurring cultural anxiety over divine beings disrupting cosmic order and the dangers of knowledge that is not meant for mortals. While one Enoch was excluded from most Jewish and Christian biblical canons, it remained influential in various mystical and apocalyptic traditions. Second Temple Judaism regarded the Watcher's myth as a serious theological explanation for the origin of evil. Early Christianity, especially in texts like the Epistle of Jude and 2 Peter, makes direct reference to the punishment of the rebellious angels, likely drawing from Enochian sources. Gnostic traditions reinterpreted the myth through a dualist lens, presenting the fallen ones not always as evil, but as bringers of hidden truth in a corrupt world. In Kabbalistic mysticism, themes of fallen angels, secret wisdom, and cosmic repair, tikkun, bear indirect traces of the Watcher narrative. Mount Hermon, in this context, becomes more than a setting. It is a symbol of cosmic fracture, a point in space where order was first compromised. In recent centuries, particularly with the rise of esotericism and speculative theology, the Hermon narrative has been reinterpreted through new frameworks. Hermon is sometimes viewed as a stargate or interdimensional portal, a place where beings from other realms or dimensions entered our world. The Watchers are equated with extraterrestrials, interdimensional entities, or ancient advanced intelligences who shared forbidden knowledge with early humans. Writers such as Zecharia Sitchin and proponents of the ancient astronaut hypothesis reinterpret the Watchers as alien visitors. The Nephilim are seen as the hybrid offspring of these extraterrestrials and humans, with Hermon acting as a landing or contact point. In certain interpretations, Mount Hermon is symbolically linked to ongoing human struggles with authority, secrecy, and lost knowledge. The mountain's location in the politically sensitive Golan Heights adds to its symbolic potency in some religious political narratives. The Hermon Curse, originally a theological explanation for evil, corruption, and divine judgment, has evolved into a multi-layered myth with lasting cultural resonance. It represents the danger of transgression, when divine boundaries are deliberately broken, the cost of forbidden knowledge, when enlightenment leads to destruction, the duality of progress and peril, when gifts from higher realms come at a hidden price, the unhealed scar in the cosmic order, a reminder of a time when heaven and earth collided unnaturally.